We're in Wisconsin with Erin the Impatient Gardener, who we've had on the channel before, maybe a little over 2 years ago.
Something like that, yep.
Something like that. Your garden looks great.
Thank
I mean,
you.
it looked great the last time we were here, but it really has matured more. A lot of the things around the house have. You've put a lot of effort in.
Yeah, well, yeah, I try.
Yeah.
Like everybody, I try.
Right. So, how many? You were right at around 100,000 subscribers then, and now you're like a bunch. I mean,
I'm at around 150 now.
150,
somewhere
wow.
right there. Well, yeah.
Growing.
Well,
Growing.
working on it.
Right. Yeah.
Working on it.
Let's see. What were we going to cover in this video? There's so many things in this garden. You have a lot.
I do.
You have a lot. Have you done any kind of inventory or count of how many different things you have here?
No, I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Because I was wondering, just up that edge of that driveway over there, just how many different things you actually have.
Yeah, I'm pretty terrible about keeping track of stuff,
Right.
and I need to do better at making an inventory, because I know that I'm not going to start remembering it any better over the years. So
Right, that's true. That's how that goes.
Yeah.
So, how was gardening in this part of Wisconsin? We're on Lake Michigan. Literally, the lake is behind us. It's windy and it's a lot of chop on it today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the gardening season was, well, it's funny, I always say it was weird, but I think every gardening season is weird now because everything is so different from what we considered to be a norm.
Yeah.
So we had a cool spring.
Yeah.
Darwin, come here. Come by me.
Come here, buddy.
There you go.
Come here, buddy.
There. We had a cool spring, and which is typical.
Yeah.
And then summer was pretty good. And then we had a really weird August, and then we had like a lot of dry, and then we had a couple of weeks of like there were floods in Milwaukee, and then that went away. Very strange, but in general, the tone seems to be everyone's saying everything feels late to them. So my dahlias have been very late to bloom, tomatoes have been very late to produce. So everything kind of feels like it got set back quite a bit, and this is an experience that I'm hearing from across the board from gardeners around the area.
Right. In your zone, just to let folks know, you were 5B on the map update. You got moved into 6A.
Correct.
You're still gardening as if it's 5B for the most part.
Absolutely.
If you're zone pushing, it's up around the foundation.
Exactly.
And that kind of thing. Have you added anything new this year? Where you expand?
So I did. So I actually extended. I made a change to a bed on the other side of the house that I should have done. It's one of those things that I think I didn't do it for years because I'm like, that's going to be work.
Right.
Like making new beds is not, it's not a little thing, right?
No, it's not.
And I finally sort of changed that bed line, and it was one of those things where I was like, oh God, I wish I had done this years ago.
Right.
So I did that, and then I actually created a little space on the other side of the driveway that was to solve it's a utilitarian space. And I needed to solve a problem there, and I'm really happy with the solution that I came up with over there, because I feel like, okay, this was a problem, and I solved it in a way that I feel like is actually going to work. Sometimes I feel like when there's problems, you get a little aspirational. Well, I'm going to push it this way, it's going to do this, and I kind of made it a point to be very honest with yourself about what this space is, and what the exposure is, and how dry it is in this space, instead of wanting something else and then trying to fit the situation to it, which I have done in this garden before, and I pay the price for it. There's spots in the garden where I'm like, I knew better than to do that, but I wanted that, so I thought I'd try to push it. You know?
Yeah, that's the way that always goes. And we have to move. We have to move things. We have to move things occasionally, because you don't know. When I was had the nursery and at retail place, and people would come in. I've said this before, there was like the biggest argument you could get in is if you ask them what the space is, the couple.
Yeah.
One of them will say it's sunny, one of them will say it's shady, one of them will say it's wet, one of them will say it's dry.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you don't even know yourself.
Right.
And then you plant something, you go, oh, I found the problem.
Yep.
And then you have to dig it up and move it.
Yep.
So you have containers that you're obviously watering.
Yes.
Beautiful containers.
Yes.
Like her containers make our containers. We probably need to up our container game big time. What are you doing with?
That comes inside every year.
Fatedra?
So I dig it up out of the container. I give it a big haircut. And then I bring it in, and it grows just fine as a houseplant. Does just fine. I mean, I wouldn't, I was telling Steph, I don't look for things to thrive inside. I look for them to survive till I can get them back outside for the next year.
Right, and the same thing with the Mahonia, with the soft caress, soft caress Mahonia, and then the Fatedra.
Yep.
So they're coming. So you're doing some work bringing things in and out and that kind of thing. But again, your container game is big. Other than watering these containers, are you watering the things in the ground after they're established? Are you irrigating?
Generally not, although since it has been quite dry, I'll set up sprinklers and stuff. And sometimes if it feels like it's really dry, I'll make it a point to just kind of spend maybe like 3 to 5 days and move a sprinkler around so that every part of the garden gets hit with like a 3-hour watering. And that usually is enough to kind of just take the edge off of things. But for the most part, the stuff that's established, I try to just let it make its way in the world, you know.
What's your pH here?
We're at like 7 or 7.2. It's pretty high.
Okay, how does that affect? I mean, how does that affect things in general?
I have a few issues with like chlorosis sometimes. Like, you know, I have to deal with some chlorosis on hydrangeas in particular. Actually, I think we can see a little bit of sign of it over here on the Durvilla that's over there.
Yeah, I saw the Durvilla.
So sometimes there's a little chlorosis problem, and sometimes I just have to limit things too. I mean, if it's really acid loving,
you're not planting Pieris and
there's a few things. I mean, I will treat the occasional. I'll put some aluminum sulfate on a hydrangea that I really would like to be blue. I'll do that. And there's a few other things that would prefer a little bit more acidic soil, and as long as I'm doing the hydrangeas, I'll throw a little bit on there. But I don't do it in any kind of systematic way, so for the most part, I have to select plants accordingly and go with that.
Yeah, and that's what I've said before. We get folks that want to dive in and like get a soil test done, and then they're a little low in this, and they're a little high in this, and they're this, and then you start messing with this, it goes the wrong direction, and now you're you're toast. So let's jump to a couple other spots.
Okay, great.
Okay, gotcha. So this is the spot. This grass with the turf was running to here?
Exactly. So we just kind of had swooped around this beech tree here. And it's just such a no-brainer now. And it was one of those things where I had adjusted the edge of this bed continually, trying to tweak it. And finally I was like, something is wrong if these tweaks don't keep working. And so continuing here and just creating this triangle.
And now the grass is pretty easy to mow too, coming into that angle off the driveway and then extending it out. These lights, Steph was just asking you about these lights. Are they?
Well, that's kind of how all of this project started, because we had some really ugly lights here that I never liked. So for 2 decades we lived with these ugly lights, and the only way I could figure, and there was one light kind of randomly stuck in the grass, and so I knew I wanted all of the lighting along the driveway, which really is only here so that a car doesn't run into the garden for the most part. I mean, it's not like we leave it on most of the time. It's just if people are coming, I leave it on so that no one drives into the garden. But the only way to make that work was to extend this bed, at least in my brain. And then it turns out that's what should have been done from the get-go. And then I took. I kind of did the whole marrying some of the plants from the other side over here to kind of make this cohesive. So I brought over the Haas Halo hydrangeas, which is one of my favorites. Oh my gosh, maybe my favorite.
We have, so as you're watching this video, we did a video with Steve. We did a video with Steve Castorani, and he's got these planted at his place. And we've met the gentleman who selected this plant. He's he was at a plant symposium a few months ago, but what a plant that is. I mean, it really is, it won the Cuba trials above the straight. This was just a one he found that was obviously more floriferous. It wasn't like this was bred. It was just found in the wild. But wow, what a plant that is. And so you had them.
I have a bunch over here, and so I'm like, I did the whole. I like to do that with paths. I like to have some continuity on both sides of a path, so that you actually feel like it's one space rather than two disparate spaces.
We are just such plant collectors, and we have such a small space that ours doesn't. I mean, ours is just like, you can come and see a lot of different plants. But when I did actual landscape installation design, I would put 3 of something over here and at least put 1 over there, just so it looked like there was some sort of plan in the plant. So people say buy odd numbers. I would buy even numbers and then split them into 5 and 3 or 3 and 1 or something like that. Was that, did you buy that blue spruce that big, or did you?
That came that big,
Woo!
Yeah, that came that big from Isley,
Oh, from Isley. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, and Hakonakloa, we just can't really.
Yeah, and it's pushing it here. It's border. This is all gold. It's borderline too sunny, but I can push it if there's enough moisture. It just tends to get a little bleached out in some cases. But what I found is that color underneath the lights actually magnifies the lighting.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm like, ooh, that color is really good. So I tried to actually put that underneath the lights.
Yeah.
And then this is a new Nicotiana for me this year. This one's called Mojito, and I grow all the Nicotiana from seed.
Yeah.
So Nicotiana is one of those plants that I put all over the garden as sort of one of my unifying plants. And that chartreuse color, I feel, is really helpful in doing that as well. So that's my first year growing it. I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, it's a great looking plant.
Yeah.
Are you, nothing chews on them. I mean, that's kind of the, you know, they're a little bit down at the very bottom. But, so how long is the seed? When do you start these seeds? When can you plant an annual outside here? Because for us, it's like April 15th-ish.
Yeah, it's not until Memorial Day at the earliest, basically.
Okay, gotcha.
And usually sometimes I'm pushing that into the first week of June.
God.
Yeah.
Okay, so how far? So you're not probably starting seed until April. You're probably doing it too early because you're over winter.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so now your stuff is stretched a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I do a fair amount of that. But yeah, so a lot of this, I'm going to have to take a look. Of course, I've got a chart that tells me everything about this, but it's probably sometime in April. It's probably early April that I'm starting that.
You're starting seed.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
I mean, some stuff I'll start certainly in March, but yeah.
Right. Well, that's wild. So this is the utilitarian area you were talking about.
So this side of the driveway, a few years ago, this was all grass, and that was just dumb because it wasn't growing well, and I don't need grass over here. So I started by making this kind of shrub border over here because I thought, well, let's get some shrubs. Shrubs are nicer to look at.
Yeah.
But I had left this area open because we need bulk deliveries of stuff every once in a while. We get wood chips, we get soil. Right. And we usually have them, the best way to do that is they back in the driveway and they kind of stick it there. So the idea I came up with was to create sort of a semicircle of regular old lawn here and kind of an opening at the back so they can drive right over the top of this, dump the stuff there. And some of it can dump on the lawn and it's no big deal. Yeah. And then I used Russian cypress, Microbiota decussata.
Yes, this is another one we can't grow in Raleigh. We come up to the north and just love this plant.
It is such an underused plant.
Yeah.
I love it so much. It grows in quite a bit of shade.
Yeah.
It grows in a bit of sun. It doesn't get that big. It doesn't ask for anything. Nothing eats it. Nothing eats it, and it's very adaptable to dry soils after it's established.
Yeah, and the weird thing is it's also adaptable to that spot down there that's a little wetter.
Exactly.
When we see it in some wet areas sometimes and then super dry areas up on top of walls.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then underneath the kind of shrub area, I decided too that I'm like, okay, we got to get rid of, there was grass. I did it, this is another thing. You know, when I started that shrub border, I plunked them in the lawn because I didn't feel like dealing with getting rid of the grass, which I knew was a mistake, but I do it all the time. Anyway, got rid of the lawn, and now I've started underplanting that with like a Carex mix. So I've got
Pennsylvanica.
it's not Pennsylvanica, it's albicans, Carex albicans, Carex montana, and then I put a little bit of Pachysandra procumbens in there, the native Pachysandra in there. And we'll just kind of let that sort of fill in around there as a ground cover layer eventually.
Right.
So.
Yeah, when we go to Juniper Level, if we're filming with Tony, he's one of his favorite. Those native Pachysandra are right at the top of his list, and we've got them at the house as well. So that's one that just like covers a giant range. What do you think about Carex in general? Like 10 years ago as a gardener, was there a Carex in this garden?
Oh, no.
Right.
No, not 10 years ago, no.
10 years ago?
Yeah.
And now, how many Carex do you think you have in this garden?
Oh, my gosh, I probably have 25 different Carex around.
25
probably,
different Carex?
Yeah, something like that.
I talked to a grass grower recently, and it was like, we didn't have a Carex on our list. And this is a company that grows a lot of different grasses.
Yeah.
They didn't have a Carex on their list 20 years ago, and now there's more Carex than grasses on their list. So it's just become such, I mean, it was weird. And I say this, we're walking around in the woods all over America stepping on these things like they were nothing, and now they're garden plants.
Right, I know.
And they're great industrial garden plants.
The story of Carex and its rise to prominence is pretty amazing, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. You have some strawberry begonias planted under the bench you're trying.
I do. Well, guess where I saw that plant and fell in love with it, Jim?
Oh, really? Yeah. Good. Tell us.
Well, Ram's Garden.
Yeah, right.
Which has been featured on has its own playlist on your channel.
It has my own playlist.
Yes,
yeah, it has its own playlist. Yeah, I love that.
And
love that
I fell
garden.
in love with that plant in that garden, and so I hunted it down and added. I thought, well, we'll try it. I mean, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and it's one of Steph's favorites as well. It's just she just plugs in. You know, she has this Ram has this magic of just being able to plug these things in and kind of a let them go where they want to go kind of garden.
Yeah.
And just don't fight it. You know, if it wants to be over there, there it is. We love going to that. We love going to that garden. This shade space, you're really, really good with using texture and color, and you know, these aren't easy spaces to come up with how to plant them, how to grow them. I think people really struggle if they have shady spaces like this. So what are your thoughts on developing an interesting shade garden?
I think for shade, texture is got to be number one, because so many plants that grow in the shade are green. There's some version of green.
Right.
So if you're going to have interest, you just have to have texture. And I think texture starts with juxtaposition, obviously. So you've got big leaves with hostas, although clearly hostas are problematic here. Half of mine have been eaten off by the deer right now.
Right.
But then you got to bring in those other textures too. So I do use a lot of the Hakanakloa. I particularly like all gold, although I have like 4 different varieties of Hakanakloa around the garden. But also, so when you're talking about colors, and like I said, a lot of it is green, I like to bring in chartreuse where I can, because I feel like that helps. I can put that all over the garden, and it unifies the garden from space to space, because there's a lot of garden here, and it's not really garden rooms. You can see a lot of the garden in one fell swoop. So if you want to make it all make sense, I feel like you need to have some unifying elements, and so that's one of them. Yeah,
and you're using the ligularia back there with the big giant leaves. So you're using the size of the leaf, the shape of the leaf, the foliage. We're chartreuse. I mean, anybody who watches our garden, we're over the top probably with. I can't pass up a variegated plant or a chartreuse colored plant. Gold. I just can't. I can't. But in this low light area, something draws your eye to it, and then you start focusing on everything else. If this was just something, has to stand out to make you want to look in there. And that's what that Hakanakloa does. Yep. And then now I'm focused on it, and I can really then see all the textures and the So I think for low light, it's kind of important. Your climbing hydrangea, I think we covered this the last time we were here, but it's pretty impressive. It's still flowering a bit. Yeah. Mostly has passed at this point. Yep. And that's on an ash.
It's on an ash tree, and the ash tree was alive when we planted it, and then like all of the ash trees in this neighborhood, it died from emerald borer. So rather than lose the climbing hydrangea, we just topped the ash tree.
Right, and they took them out across. I mean, you've had them. They all died.
They all died. Every ash tree in the neighborhood died, and it was, and most of the neighborhood, because they had seeded themselves everywhere at some point.
Probably was fairly costly taking these things out.
Oh yeah,
for everybody.
I think on our property we probably took out 25 of them, and the neighborhood for the neighborhood it's thousands of them.
So what is this dahlia?
So that dahlia is Bloomquist Jean. And I have a love-hate relationship with it. And I think you can see why I love it, because it's wild and weird and kind of Seussian. But it's also like 7 or 8 feet tall.
Yeah, right.
And it just started blooming like 2 weeks ago.
So you stored this?
Yes.
And then you brought it out, and then it took. So you've got 11 months in it between blooms or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So I store them, bring them out. I actually pot up all my dahlias early so that in theory, so that they will start blooming earlier, which was not at all an effective strategy this year.
You cover all that on your channel, how you deal with the dahlias, and
I have a whole. And speaking of playlists, I have a whole dahlia playlist. So
gotcha.
we got all kinds of stuff on there if people are looking for that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Let's bounce around and see some of your favorite fall blooming plants.
Okay, so Tricertus toad lilies is certainly one of my fall plants. I mean, to me, it looks like an orchid. The flowers to me look very orchid-like, and I think it's such a good surprise. I mean, people who don't know this plant will walk in and go, "Are you growing an orchid over there?" Because that's how much it looks like one. And it's got these beautiful, beautiful flowers. There's all kinds of varieties of it. I just have, I think, just the same one. I think this is just the Mikasa hybrids or something like that. But I think it's a great plant, and it has really cool foliage that stands up above the shade, kind of woodland edge garden, which cannot be overlooked.
Yeah, we have a couple of variegates, a couple of variegated varieties of them. Ours probably slightly underperform. We just have dry. We have them in a little too dry of a space. I think. I mean, I'm assuming this bed was amended a bit at some point. A little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
and deer ate ours, and you have a garden full of deer, and somehow yours have escaped that.
Clearly, there's something here they like to eat more than that, I guess.
Right.
So it's not blooming yet, but monkshood is probably one of my favorite fall blooming plants. And although I am probably going to move this around the garden a little bit, because I think I've got a little too much in the middle here, because it kind of messes up this bed, because there's nothing happening with it other than the foliage. But I will say that it's growing. It's got the backdrop of that climbing hydrangea. And so usually it's blooming at just the same time that the climbing hydrangea turns perfectly gold.
Oh, gotcha.
And so you get that bright blue against the gold, and it's just like this perfect little fall moment. And I think it's important. I mean, it's hard sometimes to justify space in your garden for a plant that isn't blooming until end of October or something. And yet when it happens, I'm like, totally worth it. Totally worth, 100% worth the space. Yeah,
and I agree with it. And which would, as long as you have something near it that's flowering, that's pulling your eye away from it all season long, the big hope is that it survives whatever summer you've had and whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What a weird thing to do, though, to come out of the ground. Everything else is coming out of the ground, getting the flowering over while there's moisture and then these things that come along and go, I'm going to wait 6 months.
Yeah, right?
At all the risk of everything that could happen to me between now and then flower.
Yeah.
But, I love fall blooming things.
It's, I should mention, because otherwise you will have a comment that says this, extraordinarily poisonous.
Oh, okay, yeah, I got you. Don't eat it.
Don't eat. So, and that's why I planted in the middle of the bed, farther back.
Yeah.
Like, I've got dogs running around. Nobody's going in there. I'm not messing with it. It's away, and and so sometimes people worry about plants like that.
Yeah.
It's like, just put them in the right place.
Yeah.
And then judge your own comfort level. For me, it's no problem.
Right. And you can look up the NC State website has one of the best lists on their homepage. They'll put whether it's toxic or not. And for something like this, it's going to say extreme toxicity.
Yeah.
Those are the ones. If you are trying to avoid that in your garden, avoid the ones that say extreme. Some of them will say mildly toxic. That probably means you have to eat the whole plant, in order to have some issue with it. But there are some out there, like oleander for us in the South. We'll say extreme. All parts of plants extremely toxic. That kind of thing.
This is Amsonia. This one is actually string theory. I also grow Amsonia hubrectii, which is the very thin leaf one.
Yeah.
Both of these have the best fall color. And so while they're not fall blooming, I actually grow them mostly for the fall color. And in particular, they also bring a really important textural element that I think is super important to the garden, and particularly some of the spots where I use hubrectii. But the reason I got the plants originally was because it just turns into this glowing yellow orb, basically, and you will spot. And it's funny, it's one of those plants that I didn't know what it was. I just years ago, before I got it, I just kept seeing it, and I'm like, what is that? Because it catches your eye like nothing else. So while the flowers on these plants are kind of they're kind of a non-starter. They don't do much in terms of flowering, tiny little blue flowers.
But it adds a lot of texture.
But there's great texture, and then the fall color cannot be beat.
Yeah, we were at the Delaware Botanic Garden. What's that garden called, Steph? I don't even remember now. That's what it's called. The Delaware Botanic Garden last year, and we happened to catch this, where they were this tall, and these beds compete in mostly, it was pretty much entirely native plantings, and we caught them full gold like that in a video, and it was just like, it kind of, so it's not where it's not a flower, it's every bit as good as a flower.
Yes.
Yeah, and it lasts a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fuscaria starts flowering in, midsummer, but it keeps going, and it actually is looking probably better than it has yet. This one is Fuscaria Orange Field, or Orange Fields, and it's not orange, so I've never seen it, or someone was being very aspirational when they named it, I think. But it is such a good plant in the garden. It's got that flower shape that, is important, I think, when we think about flower shapes. This sort of, spire type shape is not that common. And I think when you can bring those in, I think it really helps in the garden. It's great as a cut flower too.
Yeah. And
the only issue with it is that it does get attacked by Japanese beetles pretty badly. So when the Japanese beetles are around, the foliage looks absolutely wretched. I mostly pick off the worst looking foliage, and then it reflushes with nice new foliage and looks perfect later on. And I mean, you would never know that this looked pretty rough, a month ago.
And we won't see as much of this in the South, but we filmed it in Iceland and the Netherlands, and then from Philadelphia north and over to here, we just see it and widely used in gardens because it's so easy. You get a lot of bang for your buck.
You do, and it's also quite adaptable. I mean, you can really push it from, most of them go well from sun to a fair bit of shade too.
Right. Yeah, so we saw that.
You know, so it'll be fine in a lot of different scenarios. So one of the only heucheras that does well for me is this one. This is Heuchera villosa Autumn Bride. It's not fancy colors. It's more about a textural thing. But this plant does so well, and you can tell it's called Autumn Bride because it blooms late, and the flower spires are on it are beautiful, but it just is a really tough cookie, which is not something I generally think of with heucheras.
No, not me neither. And we filmed this with Steve Castorani up in Philadelphia, and he had them in front of a wall along the road in like the toughest dry shade spot that would never get irrigated, like the last place on earth you think you could grow these, because they tend to be a little finicky for us. We have, what is your soil? I mean, it's mostly sand along this lake, I would think.
It's quite sandy, yes.
Okay, gotcha. As typical of large water masses near them, typically you're gonna have some sort of sand. So you're draining pretty well. I'm draining
a lot, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So if we put Tiarella, Heuchera in flat spaces in our clay soil, they get smaller.
Yeah.
They have to go on banks for us and then be slightly irrigated a little bit to keep them moist. But this thing just seems tougher in general, and it comes in the look. You saw the bees. The native bees just taking advantage of it. You'll see honeybees on it as well. How many of the plants was this?
Oh, this is probably this is probably like 4 of them right here. Probably.
Yeah.
And the other thing with this is like in areas where we get hard frost, heucheras have a big tendency to heave. There's a lot of frost heave, and a lot of times you got to go around in spring and pop all your heucheras back down the ground. This one does not do that. So I think it means it's putting down nice roots, and it's getting in there and it's holding itself in better than other varieties might.
Nice. Well, thank you very much. We're going to put a little bit of a walk around video here at the end of this video to see all of your beautiful garden. Thanks for hosting us
anytime.
Again, and we love coming up and
thank you for
love
coming.
seeing us. And definitely follow Erin's channel for sure, especially if you're in zone 5 or 6 for sure. And everybody really, I think that Erin is amongst the most knowledgeable people that are actually that are making content on YouTube.
Thanks.
I think that
Thanks, Jim,
I mean
that's
nice. And I'm being honest here. There's in a world of you can turn on a camera and say whatever based on experience. I think you have actual experience that you're bringing to this, and you're not it's not like a season or 2 of experience. And I'm not being critical of anything. I'm just saying that there time amount of time you've been doing this is helpful in being able to deliver information that is good information, and you're one. I think you're one of those people.
Well, thanks, Jim. That's nice of you to say that. Thank you.
Thanks for watching.